Hello whisky fans, 'tis, as they say, the season to be jolly. So let's open another day on our whisky advent calendar. So 13th of December, it's another double door. Hopefully we'll get something special. I have absolutely massacred that. Oh dear. Ah, that's interesting. The one above it, and sadly I've just seen what that is, but the one above it has just fallen down because the front is a bit floppy now, and I just saw what we've got for number 15. At least it's not a spoiler for number 24. But today we have Brenne, I think I'm pronouncing that right, French single, that's really small, French single malt whiskey, 40% ABV. So I have had this one before, and it's a whiskey. In particular, there's one note that a lot of people get on the nose and the palate of this whiskey. Be interesting to see if we get it again or if something has changed over at Brenne. Brenne, I don't know. Yep, that's definitely exactly the same as I remember it. So, yesterday we had the World Whisky Blend, and that was basically gin dressed up as whiskey. It wasn't bad, but it was incredibly unusual, and we've got another incredibly unusual whiskey today. So, the nose on this one, that's almost comedic. Interestingly, the colour of this one is almost exactly the same as the nose, because it absolutely reeks of bananas. I have no idea how the people that make this in France actually make it smell and taste like this, because it really does smell like a banana liqueur. It's incredibly sweet and fruity, but artificially so. I'm getting lots of notes of bubblegum, and not just like your normal bubblegum, like the tutti frutti kind, the really in your face, artificially sweet, fruity ones. And also, and a key part of this whiskey's profile, is those chewy foam banana sweets that you used to get when you were a kid. It really, really smells like those. And I don't just mean that there's a little note in there that smells a little bit like it. The entire whiskey smells exactly like it. It's hard to believe that it's not actually an ingredient in this whiskey. Also getting quite a strong aroma on the nose of this one of the strawberry flavoured Calpol that you used to have when you were young. And I don't know if it's because you have different Calpols for different aged children, but I remember that when I was really young, so we're talking about back in the 80s, late 80s, Calpol had quite a pleasant flavour, and at some point that changed, and I don't know if they changed the recipe or if I just moved on to one for older children, but that original one that I remember from when I was really young, it's a lot like the flavours that you're getting on this one. There's absolutely nothing offensive in this, but you really wouldn't guess it was whiskey. I defy anyone to do a blind tasting of this and not guess that it's one of those wacky flavoured vodkas or something like that, because they do a lot of spirits now that are flavoured with sweets from people's childhoods, like blackjack flavoured gin and things like that. And I think if you didn't know that this was single malt whiskey, you would guess that this is what that is. There are some slightly more traditional notes on the nose as you go into it and you really look. There's some slightly cigar box, potpourri, scented wood notes. But every time I go back to the glass on this, it's just like being hit in the face with a giant foam banana. Right, I suppose it's time to taste this stuff. Kind of speechless. So, on the palate, lots of bubblegum flavoured sweets, lots of Calpol, and that's not where the similarities between this and sort of childhood medicine end, because towards the end of the palate on this one, it becomes increasingly bitter and like one of those like liquid penicillin medicines that you might have had as a child. It really is the sort of thing that it just brings back memories of being given a spoonful of medicine when you were a small child and not particularly liking it. There's also some slightly dry and extractive oak notes on the palate, but I think mainly that bitterness is coming through, and you don't get it straight away. To start with, it's just pure Calpol, strawberry, banana, sweets, all things that destroy your teeth, and you can watch it change before your eyes almost, that it goes from all these sweet shop confectionery notes into more bitter and medicinal and quite unpleasant notes. And that's really what you have on the finish as well. It just descends into this bitterness and all of the sweet shop notes disappear and you're just left with this bitter flavour that just lingers, and that's all there is really. Just going to try it once more. I suppose I have to finish the sample. I mean, it's 30 millilitres there. Can't waste it, can you? It's really not that bad. On the nose, it's bizarre, but quite nice. The start of the palate is quite nice. And then it just gets really, really not good. But there are definitely good things about this. And one of them is I have no idea how they've made this. I don't know. I assume they're just using malted barley. Possibly running their stills really hot. I don't know if they're maturing this in some bizarre type of cask, but it's unlike anything I've ever had. The only thing that's remotely like this is those banana notes are one aspect of some very old Kalilas. Like your 25-year-old Kalila has a little bit of that banana sweet flavour, but not the entire palate like we've got here. It's really quite weird. Yeah, if Willy Wonka made whiskey, all those things aside, I don't think it's terrible. It's definitely unique, and until you get halfway through the palate, it's quite pleasant, even though it doesn't taste anything like whiskey. So, where are we going to put this one on our leaderboard? Well, it would be a real insult if I put this above the Teeling. Can't do that to you, Teeling. You're not my favourite, but I'm not going to be that mean. I would put this in the same camp as the World Whisky Blend. So the World Whisky Blend was a really bizarre but also interesting whiskey, and this is a really bizarre but interesting whiskey. So I think I'm going to put this just above the World Whisky Blend, and now I'm starting to feel really bad about putting Glenrothes at the bottom. But Glenrothes is there for a completely different reason. That is traditional Scotch whisky, which is really underpowered and simple. These two are not particularly underpowered. That's interesting actually, this is only 40%, but it's not underpowered. I would not say this was weak. But those are down the bottom of our leaderboard because they are odd. So again, I'd love to hear what everyone out there thinks of this Brenne single malt whisky, because it is a really interesting one. So I think we're going to get some really interesting and probably conflicting and opposing viewpoints on this one. So look forward to hearing from you. Cheers.